The Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, Week 2. DraftKings picks, positional previews. You want to go to a particular position, you jump to the time codes, you find everything right there. I do want to let everyone know the Pat Mayo Experience rake-free DraftKings Listeners League is up. It's running. It's $15 to enter. 3 max entry, over $60,000 in guaranteed rake-free money. That's a contest you want to play in. I helped out with the structuring of the actual payout, so it's like $5K to first prize, but it's not like $5K to first prize and $100 for second. No, very flat payouts across the board. You min cash, you get double your money back. It's an excellent tournament. Everyone should go play in it. It's still like 75% unfilled right now. So if we don't fill it up, they're just going to scale it back. And this is not, they're giving away free money here. So this is a tournament you have to go play in. The link is in the description of this podcast and video. Go play in that. This is taking the place of the Pat Mayo Experience Golf Listeners League for the remainder of the year. And then golf will return in the new season and we'll have that back up and running as well. But rake free money, you really can't overlook that. Also, I do want to let everyone know, although it is week 2, there was a lot of big scores out there. Drew Dinkmeyer was on the show last week, and what did he do? He got the Pat Mayo Experience bump, won $100K using the Daily Roto system. So if you want to get in on Daily Roto and all the you can get on the optimizer, the lineup builder, all the strategy articles for every single slate that's out there in DFS, use the promo code THEPME, get yourself 10% off. And while he didn't win $100,000. He might want to get into a draw for 20 DK dollars by smashing the like button for this video, leaving your DraftKings handle in the comment section, and telling me your favorite value on the DraftKings main slate. This is main slate only stuff. But while he didn't win $100K, Davis Mattek is here from dailyroto.com. But you also had a good week.
Yeah, very good week. Got bailed out in cash by the San Francisco 49ers defense, had a lot of Dak Prescott and Michael Gallup in tournaments. So things went well for me week 1. I don't have to start a Kickstarter to get money to fund my DraftKings account at this point in time.
I do. I'll take anyone's money and I'll lose it on DraftKings. That's what I do.
I mean, good for you. At least you're not paying rake in your own tournament, though. So you're saving like a little bit of money, and that's a positive.
Well, I like to think that it's beyond rake free because I play in it, and I'm so incredibly bad that it's my $45. They're just dead money in the pool anyway. So it's like reverse rake.
Yeah, you're actually creating even more. You're really guaranteeing overlay by entering your 3 entries in the tournament as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get in there too, maybe we can jack that up. Then maybe you can win one of them, but 2 of your lineups will definitely be dead, right?
Oh, I mean, like at least one of them is going to have Kyler against Baltimore this week. So if you want to play against a contest that you know for sure is going to have a Kyler Murray, Christian Kirk stack against the Baltimore Ravens defense, enter into the PME rake-free DFS contest this week, and you will play against at least one of those lineups.
Baltimore is going to win that game like 39-0, by the way.
I am definitely on Arizona in the points, but
you know who is? Everyone else.
Really?
Yeah.
You think that's I think the Baltimore side is the public side for sure.
I don't think so at all. This could just be a very bubbly type situation, but I've talked to probably 8 people and I keep asking them like, what do you think the best spread of the week is? Like, oh, Arizona's definitely going to cover the 13.5. It's like Baltimore beats up on bad teams and Arizona's not good.
I mean, Arizona is not good, but I think we are going to see some garbage time magic from Kyler this year, very similar to the 2017 Bortles season. I think he's really going to make some magic happen down 30 points.
Yeah, I mean, that is potentially on the table. But I mean, if you had to, I know the price difference is gigantic, but if you went Lamar or Kyler, like Lamar is more of the lock to have the better game here. Let's be real.
Lamar is like breaking our projections at dailyroto.com. Like Leone opened up our first run of projections and is just like, I don't even know what to do with this because we already had him projected as, such a good rusher. And then, every game we add their efficiency baselines into what their baselines were before. And when you have a perfect passer rating and 5 touchdowns on 20 passes, that can mess with your baselines.
Well, there's we'll get to quarterbacks eventually. Again, time codes if you don't care about any of this shit. But there are some pretty good values at the quarterback position that I think you probably do want to exploit this week. Before we do that, though, the ranking show with Seeley is already out. It didn't touch on the Antonio Brown stuff because we recorded it before. Neither did the pick show, which is out right now. You can go check those. And I'm trying to get to 15 million downloads for the year. And I need everyone's help out there. So one way you can do that is just make sure that there's reviews on iTunes. I'm giving away 20 DK bucks for that as well. 5-star review. Make sure to subscribe to it as well. 5-star review, DraftKings handle, something you like about the show. iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, CastBox, doesn't matter where it is, Podbean, wherever you listen to the show, leave a 5-star review and boom, you're in the draw for 20 DK bucks. But what other people need to do is if there's a show, if like the golf show is out, for example, I'm still doing DraftKings Golf. You don't give a shit about golf, download that show anyway on your iTunes and then just delete it. You don't have to listen to it. I need them downloads. What do you think the over-under chance for me getting to 15 million downloads is?
I mean, I have no idea what your download numbers are like, but I believe in you, and I'm a huge fan of of the Pat Mayo experience. I subscribe to the show. I'm helping the download numbers, so I want to say that you are a lock to get over, Pat.
I like that. I'm glad it's you saying it, not Cust. And I did want to bring this up with you because Cust had a really egregious take. That's not anything new, but this one could be specific to you. We were talking about barbecue on the Spread Pick show. And he said that Kansas City barbecue is trash. And the reason he says this is because he bought Heinz Kansas City barbecue sauce and didn't like it.
I mean, that would be like saying that that poutine is bad because you got poutine at a gas station in Carolina and you didn't like it or something. It's just so egregious. Kansas City barbecue is, and it's not even close. It destroys Texas barbecue. St. Louis barbecue, not nearly as good. Carolina barbecue, I mean, don't even get me started. It's just like pouring vinegar on a hot dog.
From what I can tell in the places that I've been, I haven't been to Kansas City. I've been to St. Louis. I enjoyed their barbecue a lot. Memphis barbecue was like top notch.
Memphis barbecue is pretty good. Kansas City barbecue is my favorite though, just because I grew up eating that style. It's like super smoky and very tangy. I cannot believe Cuss would say that. I mean, I guess I would since he has the wrong take on literally everything. But yeah, I mean, Kansas City barbecue is the best.
Do you know what he said was the best barbecue?
Oh, I bet something horrible. Like I literally couldn't even wager a guess.
Brooklyn barbecue.
See, no, I was going to say Brooklyn barbecue clearly is the worst, but I thought Cust would be against that because he doesn't like millennial stuff.
Well, it turns out he's more of a millennial than, just his age. He really gets into that hipster lifestyle. So I guess he's
another thing, and I've been meaning to tweet about this, but his like love for Diet Coke is the most millennial thing. You know what millennials love to drink? Diet Coke. I drink like 5 Diet Cokes a week. Everyone I know, Diet Coke is their only soda they drink.
Yeah, but he gets really triggered about like the different flavors of Diet Coke. He hates those. He likes original Diet Coke.
I mean, yeah, it's all just cancer in a can. So it doesn't it really doesn't matter. But he really is much more of a millennial than he would ever let on.
No, of course. I mean, the fact that he is born and is the age of a millennial just didn't set off any warning signs to him. It's his actual lifestyle. Anyway, enough of this. Let's get into the actual positions. We'll start at running back and we'll go to the very top of the board. Guess who it is at the very top of the board, Davis? Wager a guess. You may have looked at this.
Yeah, I've looked, and it's Saquon Barkley, but I'll be honest, I don't think he's going to be a dude I'm owning a ton of this week. Probably, New York just looked so bad. They look so bad that I think they may be legitimately in non-competitive games at home against other bad teams. Like I think there is a chance that at some point they're trailing by over 2 touchdowns in this game. I mean, he's going to project really well. Of course, he is projected for the most points of any running back, significantly on dailyroto.com. But I think I just straight up prefer Kamara.
Yeah, I mean, you could even go to Zeke, too, against Washington, knowing that this game, and it's only a 4.5-point spread, so you'd think that the game is going to be a little bit closer. Therefore, he's not yanked in the second half because they're just up by too much. I don't know if the Giants can get behind too much to the Bills. I made the Bills my super lock. I think they cover the 1.5. I think the Bills are in the running to have the best defense in the league, but Barkley just puts up points every single week. It doesn't matter who it's against. And Josh Allen will keep the Giants in this game some way, somehow. That's going to happen.
So that's definitely true. I guess the thing I would say about Barkley is So his volume projection is going to be, it's just going to be really volatile. So I think his range of outcomes is kind of wider than Elliott, than Kamara, even than Dalvin Cook. Maybe even Todd Gurley's volume is a little bit more stable, just because, this is the worst Giants team of the last 20 years. Like, it's crazy how bad they are. They got absolutely boat raced in week 1.
Yeah, if we go through the entire top 10 in pricing, it's Barkley. This is for the main slate only, people. Remember that. So if you ask me about
people are triggered.
If you ask me about where's the Monday night guys in this game, like, you're a fucking moron. Just figure this shit out. It's the same shit every week. Makes me very upset, Davis. Barkley, 9,200. Elliott, 87. Kamara, 82. Dalvin Cook, 72. David Johnson, 71. Gurley at an even 7K. Then you got Connor, Mixon, Carson, and Fournette all the way down the list. I think there's a viable case to be made that if you want to have some sort of balance in your lineup, yes, obviously paying up for Kamara or paying up for Zeke is a very strong move because they're very good players, but they're expensive. If you want to start with Leonard Fournette, I would have no problems with that. Houston looked bad against the run, and very sneakily, Fournette was just always on the field against the Chiefs and utilized in the passing game.
Yeah, he was used. And I mean, that was, one of the big fantasy football questions of the year was just, is Leonard Fournette going to revert back to his 2017 usage? The answer clearly looks like yes to me. Of course, the problem with, going all in on Fournette, Pat, is he's fat and bad. He just is not very good. And, we tend to tout volume over efficiency, but some guys that I like over him kind of in similar scenarios, I would rather play James Conner and Austin Eckler, but Fournette for sure will be in my player pool this week.
Eckler at 6,100, I do think could be a nice starting point if you want to go balance. I actually think the guy sandwiched right in between them, Sony Michel at 6,200 against the Dolphins, is just in an absolute smash spot here. The Browns probably not going to play on the weekend. At least I can't imagine he will. And it was like the first time ever that the Patriots won by a whole bunch of points and Sony Michel didn't do anything. Pittsburgh, very good at stopping the run. Miami sucks against everything. So this could be like a 20 carry game for Sunday Michel. No, he's not going to do anything in the passing game. And yeah, that hurts him on DraftKings being at full point PPR. But if you ask me at the end of the week, of the guys who could potentially rush for 3 touchdowns, it's a very short list. And Sony Michel is one of those guys.
Yeah. So the issue that I would have is, it basically things went off script for him for the first time. 15 carries, 14 yards, was utterly horrible against Pittsburgh. I wouldn't be worried about efficiency concerns for him this week, but I would be concerned. What would you think if they activated Damian Harris in this game? Would that sway?
Yes, that would. I don't know if it would necessarily sway me, but then the touches, I don't think are going to be the problem. I think you can pencil them in for like 14, 15, 16 carries, maybe more.
Totally.
Even if Harris plays, but it's the touchdown equity that would start to worry me.
Yeah, well, it just, so the reason I would worry about if Damian Harris was active is they're probably going to be up 20 to 25 points for stretches in this game. And that would be a good spot to get Damian Harris his first NFL touches. With him being inactive and Brandon Bolden, Rex Burkhead, and James White being the only other running backs, I would think Sony leads this backfield pretty easily in touches. Like, I agree with you. I think he's a very good play this week. I'm kind of interested, however, in playing Chris Carson. And I did not think that was going to be something I would say, but 7 targets, was targeted on 41% of his passing routes in week 1, actually led the Seahawks in targets. Did not see any of that coming despite the offseason chatter from Carroll and Schottenheimer. If he retains that role, he is way underpriced.
It's funny, in the preseason, I hyped up Chris Carson as being basically the Derrick Henry equivalent who was going for cheaper, and now he's more expensive than Derrick Henry in this spot. I do worry that Pittsburgh is very good against the run, so now you have to rely on those catches in order for him to achieve his upside, and he still has to rush for a few touchdowns in this spot.
He wasn't even efficient last week. 15 carries for 46 yards, 3.1 yards per carry. He got all of his fantasy points via touchdowns and via point per reception.
Sure, but going into the week, we thought that was going to be a good matchup for him, that he was going to be able to run on Cincinnati. If like the offensive line in Seattle is bad enough that he can't get it going against a bad defense, against a good defense, I would just scale back what I think. That might lead to more receptions, I don't know, but I think versus the other guys in this area, like I think Eckler's a better play, I think Fournette's a better play, I think Michel is a better play, and potentially even Derrick Henry against Indianapolis, who looked piss poor against the run. I hate Derrick Henry, but this is a good spot for him.
Yeah, I I won't be playing Derrick Henry. I know why people will play Derrick Henry, and I totally get it. And if there was a spot to do it, it's at home as a favorite, coming off beating the Browns after Indianapolis was on the road and remains on the road. Like this is the nut Derrick Henry spot. No disagreements about that.
So just based on the guys that we've talked about in this like low $6,000 area, do you envision a lot of your teams paying up at running back? Like, what are the chances you have Delvin Cook on a team, or even Ezekiel Elliott or Kamara? Like, it does seem like you might have to bypass those guys in order to achieve some sort of balance, unless there's guys at the very bottom that you love.
I will for sure force some exposure to Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook and probably even Zeke as well. I'm not gonna go into a week and just flat fade those high end running backs. Now there are a lot of cheap guys that I think are playable and that I like, that it's going to keep me from being like all in on those guys. Like, I'm not going to have like 40% Alvin Kamara or anything like that.
Yeah, well, let's try to talk about this from let's talk about it from a 3-max perspective. Like you're entering, because most people aren't entering 150 lineups. That's just not the case.
I'd make one of them for sure, at least a Kamara lineup, like no doubt. Like if you're just looking at guys who could break this slate, you're looking at Barkley, you're looking at Elliott, Kamara, Hopkins, maybe a little bit, though historically, he's actually one of the dudes that Jalen Ramsey has been able to cover, shut up long enough to cover, and Smith-Schuster. I think those are the guys who could legit like full on break the slate.
Well, 5,300 I find really intriguing because we do not know the status of Joe Mixon yet, and we're probably not going to know until Friday whether he's playing or not, or could even potentially.
I think it's very safe to assume he's not going to play.
I thought so too, and then all of a sudden, there's more buzz coming because if Mixon sits, Bernard at $5,300 is in an excellent spot.
It's like a lock.
Yeah, like you just plug him in, he saves you all the money, then you can do whatever the hell you want in your lineup.
Yeah, it's like it's like Austin Eckler was last week. It's like Tony Pollard would have been if Zeke sat. Just don't look the gift horse in the mouth when we get. This is whenever I come on a preseason show and people ask me big DFS tips. My big thing is when we get these cheap replacement level running backs who come in and are $2,000 less than the starter, that is a gift that you should just be on like from the get-go.
Yeah, and even if everyone else is on the same play, good for them. They're smart. They're on the right play. It doesn't just because it's the right spot, it's the right price, and you have to be on it doesn't mean it works out every single time. But this isn't fantasy golf.
Running back ownership tends to be pretty efficient anyway.
True, but just in the sense that even if he's 40% owned in the Millionaire Maker, you can still win with him on your team. I think that people
not like golf.
Yeah, like it's hard to have your lineup duped in football. It really is.
Yeah, I like when I was creating lineups last week, I really was not super worried about being duped. I was mostly just worried about getting all the right combinations of plays that I liked because, you're very unlikely to be duped. There's a lot of roster spots. There's a lot of volatility. A lot of people don't do stacking. So you're just going to, like, if you just are doing stacking in general, and a lot of people just enter their cash lineup in stuff anyways.
Do you have a preference for stacking in general? Do you take one side of a game or do you always bring it back with something or just go full onslaught game stack? Because I think like my favorite game to stack this week is Kansas City and Oakland. I just think that's a perfect spot because all the Oakland guys are so cheap that you can make like a super team roster around 3 Oakland guys if you really wanted to. But if you bring it back with Watkins or Hardman or Kelsey or whoever, Williams or McCoy, whichever one is your preference, I think that's the way to play it.
The rules that I set last week using the Daily Roto Optimizer was quarterback with minimum 2, wide receiver, tight end, running back, minimum 2, wide receiver, tight end, running back from the other team. So yeah, I think it's pretty important to just kind of full on onslaught the game if you're going that direction.
Well, I'm not too concerned about ownership and lineups being duplicated. The point of trying to project ownership is trying to find a leverage spot with a low ownership player that if that is the slate breaker, then all of a sudden you're way ahead of everybody else. And you have to have some balls to actually do that from time to time. And at the top of this pricing at running back, it seems to me those guys are going to probably be David Johnson or Todd Gurley or James Conner. And you say you like Conner the best of those 3?
Yeah, Connor ran pretty bad last week. Jalen Samuels played more than people expected. I don't think that that's going to be the case. They're playing, a much worse defense. And I just think Connor's likely to see more snaps than he saw in that game against the Patriots as they were trailing and just trying to kind of throw stuff against the wall and see what would work out. But he still remained the primary receiving back. So I actually think 6,800 could be one of the cheapest that we see Connor in a main slate all year.
And Mixon, if he does play, he's an absolute stay away due to re-aggravation of that injury. If he busts out 180 yards, then, well, he busted out 180 yards. He's more likely to bust his ankle than do that this week if he ends up playing. But Gurley is really the interesting one to me because I don't think that they went out of their way to not give him goal line touches. It's just he wasn't on the field when they got down to that spot. He looked really good running the ball. And if your main man, Carlos Hyde, can look spry against the Saints, Gurley should be able to do the same thing.
I mean, my thing with Gurley is just that he no longer is an alpha back, right? He only played 68% of the team snaps. He did run a route on a lot of Jared Goff's back dropbacks, which is, that's something that we like to see. But yeah, just the fact that Malcolm Brown was even in there at all, and they just didn't stop and reorganize things to get Todd Gurley in there, that should give you a clear sense of the direction that this organization is heading in terms of how they are treating Todd Gurley. And I think he's going to become less and less important to the offense as the season goes on, because they also, Darrell Henderson only played one single snap. So I think that, that snap count's probably going to rise. I think Malcolm Brown's usage in the passing game will probably rise a little bit. So I'm off Gurley entirely. And if he coffins me, whatever, I'm fine with Todd Gurley putting me in a coffin once or twice this year, especially when he's priced up like this. Now, when Todd Gurley gets to be like 5,400, then I will be back in on him in tournaments.
So it sounds like Kamara at the top is the play amongst the expensive guys. And then for me, if I'm not taking Kamara, I'm dropping down to the Leonard Fournette, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Sony Michel range, and I can do it there. If Joe Mixon sits, I'm going to use Gio. So that's basically the $5,000 range. Is there anyone else in the 5,000s? Like, are you a Kerryon Johnson or Aaron Jones head? Because I just don't like those spots. Duke Johnson could get it going. Breida's in a decent spot now without Tevin Coleman, but I guess we'll see more of Raheem Mostert here. But looking below, the only really, 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 really good guy, and I know he's going to be chalk, so you have to figure out your way around this situation, is Josh Jacobs at $4,700. I hope he goes off. Like, if Chris Carson and Josh Jacobs can go off every game, I'm going to win some serious money in season-long fantasy. But I'm worried about what his usage is going to be in the passing game. That's my only hesitation, because we don't know. Yeah, we don't know.
We just straight up don't know.
That's the whole thing. So if they get behind by 14 points, is he going to continue to be on the field every single time? I know that once they get near the goal line, he's going to get the ball. That is a huge benefit, and only being $4,700, that might be worth it alone, knowing that, and it's still Gruden. They could be down by 30 and running the ball up the middle with Josh Jacobs against a pretty easy front. Like, that's not inconceivable, knowing John Gruden in this team. But if they do get in close, he's going to have the ability to score. But if he ends up being at least on the field for 50% of third downs in these passing situations, then all of a sudden he's the best play on the slate.
He's like the best play of the week.
Yeah.
And my take is that Josh Jacobs actually wasn't even that good of a runner at Alabama. What he was good at was catching passes out of the backfield, and his like physical profile and his combine metrics suggest he's actually going to be a really good receiving back and kind of an average, rushing running back. So I would think my personal belief and projections will reflect the idea that he's going to still be on the field, 70% of the snaps, I think a very good comp for him is Le'Veon Bell. And I don't mean that in terms of skill set. I mean that in terms of usage. And that, that is a lot of personal belief. That is a lot of bias from hyping him really hard for season long purposes. But he's going to be a guy that, if the projections, I'm running out 150 lineups and I get 60% Josh Jacobs, I'm going to be fine with that.
All right, so would you tackle, just go to Josh Jacobs in that spot unless Gio opens himself up at 53? But what about these guys in between, the Breidas, James White, Duke Johnson, all good? I mean, it's not a great spot for James White, but just because.
No interest in anyone but Breida.
All right.
And Gio.
Okay, so below that then, and Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake could be in a decent spot as the primary backfield pass catcher for the Dolphins in a game where they're now underdogs by 19 points. That's always fun. The Skins are underdogs. Chris Thompson, once again, just shows that he's not going away. Or you could just go to Adrian Peterson. He's super cheap. I'm not doing it. But Cust has declared this an AP week with his fresh legs. So all of a sudden, maybe he's the guy to play here if he can sneak 2 touchdowns that are completely irrelevant. If he scores 1 touchdown, he's going to pay himself off. I'd prefer to play Thompson at $3,900, but Peterson's a pretty good value here, Davis.
Man, I don't know. I
He's
don't know.
He's $3,400.
So I think if we were really going dumpster diving, I think I would legit rather play Carlos Hyde. If we're just going on guys who I think could score touchdowns and run hot with touchdowns, I think Carlos Hyde probably seems like, he just is on a team with a higher total, better offense. They're going to be up a lot. And I think if they do get up a lot, I don't think Duke Johnson's going to be the grinding back. I think it's pretty clearly going to be Carlos Hyde.
I just think that game is going to go a little bit differently than you think. I think the Jags cover that game and have a chance to outright win that game.
Well, yeah. If you think that, then Carlos Hyde, I should just be nuked for even bringing his name up. Honestly, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, you're the biggest hater in the world. Now all of a sudden, play Carlos Hyde. Davis is approved pick of the week.
I mean, it's just like I was really not encouraged because I really like Duke Johnson, and I was really not encouraged by the 63-33 split because I think they showed down near the goal line, it's going to I think Hyde's going to be the guy in there, which just sucks as someone who started to buy into Duke Johnson.
Well, if you're going to go scumming down there, if you think the game script works against the Redskins, then Thompson is most definitely a better play than Peterson, especially because it's full point PPR. But instead of someone like Hyde in the same vein, Latavius Murray is at basically the same price and a much higher projected scoring game. We know he's going to be used, not necessarily always near the goal line. And I think there's enough points in this game to go around that if you needed someone to potentially spike 2 touchdowns, he could actually be the guy.
Or if you think if you wanted to build a couple lineups with New Orleans pulling away, them controlling this game against Los Angeles, he would be a good guy. The thing I would say is just Drew Brees, he sucks on the road now. He sucks on the road, and the Saints suck on the road when they play outside. So it seems like way more of a Kamara game to me.
Devin Singletary, or is Frank Gore just too much of an option? And is Josh Allen stealing his touchdowns too big of a thing?
Well, Singletary's this is something I did not predict, but he is the passing down back. It seems like he just is kind of like FPS, fancy play syndrome, because you could just play Giovanni Bernard or Josh Jacobs. But yeah, if we're talking about just ways to get leverage on the field, Singletary probably will have a pretty good target. I bet his receiving projection will be better than Josh Jacobs is for this upcoming week, because TJ Yeldon, I think, did not register a snap. I know he didn't get a carry or a target.
I can pull that up for you right now because I released my snap shares for the week, but I just probably don't want to tackle the Bills' backfield because I think the equity in rushing is still with Josh Allen.
It's really low.
And you need that to spike, even if you're going to play a guy at $4,200. If you actually want to win a tournament, we're not talking cash games here. We're just talking about winning the big prizes. So Josh Jacobs is probably the lowest you would go at running back, or you probably need to go at running back if you're only going to play 3 lineups.
Yeah, if you're only playing 3 lineups, I mean, I would probably play Jacobs in all of them, I think.
Really? And what if Bernard became available?
I mean, I think if you were just playing 3 lineups, I wouldn't even tell you were wrong if you played Bernard and Jacobs in all 3 of them.
That's interesting. But
they are such good plays. So just without even adjusting for value or anything, just in my initial run of stuff for the whole week, I have Josh Jacobs ranked inside my top 10 fantasy running backs for the week. Just kind of going off of initial scans at team totals and everything. So he's a nut play.
Back to Buffalo for a second. Singletary played 70% of the snaps, Gore 28%, and Yeldon 3% of the time saw the field for the Buffalo Bills.
Singletary is he's a kind of he's sneaky this week and a sneaky good guy to trade for in your season-long fantasy leagues.
Yeah, I think that he'll end up getting the usage, although in the first half, they barely ran the ball against the Jets. And when it came to closing time, all of a sudden, it was Frank Gore up the middle for 2 yards for no success.
Yeah, and Frank Gore received a rushing touch on 56% of his snaps that he got, which is, that's just hilarious. The Frank Gore role, still remains.
Let's switch to wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins comes in as the most expensive price. We talked about value running backs or even mid-tier running backs. How are you approaching the wide receiver position this week? Because there's an awful lot of value here as well. Is this a position to pay up? Because most people will probably try to take their savings here.
Yeah, I think there are 2 well, really 3 values that are just such insane, like just so obvious. It's hard for me to imagine them not being just absurd chalk. I'm wondering if you think they're the same 3 that I do.
I mean, just the biggest one that stuck out to me is Tyrell Williams. Like you almost have to.
He is
but,
one of the 3. Yeah.
But like, are we just going to get into playing all the Raiders? Because I was thinking about potentially fading Josh Jacobs and doing the Waller Williams Carr stack, and just hoping that it's not Josh Jacobs who scores all the touchdowns.
Well, it's a super narrow production tree, right? They like 70% of their touches went to those 3 players, maybe even more, honestly. Like, so I think, it's very similar to kind of like the Saints. Like you know where that production is going. And we know that, Kansas City's defense, not very good. And, that they tend to encourage other teams to get into high scoring games.
I guess the other guy that I would go with in this spot, I think Juju's in line for just a smash game. He's another one of the 3. If his toe is, because we're exactly on the same page with this. So Juju, Tyrell Williams, who would be the other one?
I mean, the other guy you haven't mentioned is literally top in my value sorting on Daily Roto right now. Of course, keep in mind that we have, there's a lot of news left to come and projections are being tweeted right now.
So the answer is Josh Gordon then.
The answer is Josh Gordon. I think those guys are just like so clear. I think they are miles above everyone else in terms of value projection.
So you're not paying up for DeAndre Hopkins, is what you're saying, in a bad matchup.
I mean, certainly you could. Like, I don't think it's bad. He had a great game last week. He will be in, like, especially because I will be stacking him with Deshaun Watson, who I think Deshaun Watson could actually maybe be the highest scoring quarterback in fantasy this year, because he looks incredible running the ball, which, and they're just really letting him fly with that. They called that zone read on 4th and 1 where he scored, which I thought was a pretty good play call. But, he's not someone I'm making a super effort to get in.
Well, the 2 guys that I really like, or 3 guys I guess I really like, that I'm probably going to end up gravitating towards outside of those 3, because I agree with you, those 3 are probably the 3 best values on the slate, especially Juju among the very top guys. I'd play Odell against the Jets, but he's not on this slate. He plays Monday night.
Some showdown action, buddy.
I'm trying not to play as much showdown. I'm just so incredibly bad at it.
How dare you? How dare you do that to yourself?
Well, Drewby's winning all the money. There's nothing left for me.
It's true. It's honestly inconsiderate of him.
Yeah, it's not nice. He comes on the show, he gives out the plays, and actually one of the shout out, I forget who it was, but one of the viewers last week came 4th in that giant $1 million tournament. He won like $25K or something like that. So shout out. And if you do use Daily Roto promo code, the PME, for 10% off, there are showdown slates and optimizers up there for those as well, if that's something that you want to get into. Just chucking that out there. It's making Davis a good player, so it's got to be.
Yeah. Oh, come on. If something can make me profitable at DFS, how are you guys not purchasing this product?
So I like John Brown. I just might be a sucker for the Bills, but the connection he had with Josh Allen, the big playability, I really like that. Brandon Cooks in the revenge situation against the New Orleans Saints, but I think he can get behind that defense. And Amari Cooper really intrigues me too, just because of all the big plays that were given up by the Redskins last week.
Yeah, just how about we just talk about the fact that, Dallas looks like they could maybe be the absolute best offense in the NFL. They just looked incredible.
Hold on. They played the Giants, who you just called like the worst team in 20 years.
Well, I literally cannot pass on a chance to disparage of the New York Giants. Like it really gives me life to hate on the New York Giants. But basically everything that we thought might happen with the Cowboys offense over the course of the preseason came to fruition in that first game. Now, of course, I want to see them do it over a month, right? But I am just so encouraged by everything I saw from them.
The sneakiest play that no one's going to own, I believe, on the slate comes in at $6,200. He's a bit overvalued, but everyone loved Tyler Lockett coming into the year. He's going to run most of his routes out of the slot. And you know what Pittsburgh can't do, Davis? Cover slot receivers at all. I know he had 2 targets, but one of them was a touchdown, so that's nice. But Lockett still has, we talk about guys that can break a slate due to long playability. Lockett is one of those guys.
Yeah, the issue with that is that, for tournaments, he's priced right next to Brandon Cooks, priced right next to Michael Gallup. I think even considering the ownership that's going to flow to those guys, and Chalk doesn't really get out of control at wide receiver anyways, except for cheap guys. I'm not really interested in investing in Seattle's offense or their passing game particularly.
I mean, you just talked about Chris Carson. That's the reason to invest in him, because of the passing game.
Well, because he's taking away all those short area targets that I think we kind of assumed that Lockett would inherit as he transitioned into that Doug Baldwin role, but that's not what happened at all. Lockett stayed in his old role, and DK Metcalf played the Doug Baldwin role.
All right, so maybe it's Metcalf. I just look at the Steelers' defense, and I see what they don't do well, and just covering slot guys who just run a crossing route 4 yards from the line of scrimmage across the field are apparently just open every single play. So that could just really benefit Tyler Lockett here.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think the Pittsburgh defense is very good, and I think that if Brian Schottenheimer and the Seattle Seahawks allow Russell Wilson to air it out, they will be rewarded. I don't have a ton of faith in them to actually do that.
So the sub $5,000 guys, we talked about Tyrell Williams. He's going to be the most popular play, as he probably should be in this spot. We didn't mention Allen Robinson either, who's a bit up, but I'm just still Williams just crushed the Broncos defense. But Allen Robinson can probably do the same thing too. So you need someone to keep on your radar. But Hollywood Brown is at an even $5,000. Like, what do you run? We played like 12 snaps last week. Like that.
But they were up. 40.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think that he'll play more than 12 snaps this week. It just seems like a big price increase coming off an awesome week. Like, I don't know really what to make of it. I'd rather play John Brown at $5,200.
Well, no, I think if I was stacking Lamar, I think I'd rather go just with someone who I think is not going to be as chalk. So go with Willie Snead.
Snead's the play.
Because Brown will be 10 to 12% owned or something like that, and Snead will be like 2. Miles Boykin will be like 1. So I guess that would probably be the way. Well, actually, no. The chalk with him is going to be Mark Andrews.
Yeah, they'll probably just play all 3 of them together. But it's weird. Like, that's not the typical like ceiling game that we would think from Lamar Jackson, because the typical ceiling game for Lamar Jackson would be like 101 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 through the air. Like, that would be the sort of logic behind it. So I do worry that. I know it worked out in week 1, and against this Arizona defense, it's probably going to work out in week 2, but longer term through the season, stacking with Lamar Jackson, I think, is a bit more difficult than people might think.
Yeah, so I think most weeks he probably is going to be a quarterback I would be okay playing naked, which I am not normally. I would never do that in a tournament, but this week I think you can stack him with kind of whoever you want with ownership considerations involved. But I think in some of their tougher matchups, and they play the Chiefs week 3, so that's going to be another one where you want him to stack. But when he's like below, maybe he gets below like 6,000 or something, I think you can play him on his own, and that's fine.
So of the guys from last week who really broke out, you have Marquise Brown, you have John Ross, but now without Tyreek Hill around, the caveman, Cole, hard man. He's just kind of stuck in there in between, and everyone's going to play Watkins, everyone's going to play Kelsey. If you're making a Chiefs stack or even a game stack with the Raiders, is he the guy to throw in, or is he just fool's gold here?
I think Robinson is the guy. Because he's actually played. He's an NFL player who has played in this offense before, and was the guy who, when they didn't know if Tyreek Hill was going to play or not, was preparing the whole offseason like he was going to be the starting X wide receiver. So I think Robinson is much more likely. He's cheaper too, so I think he's much more likely to be lower owned, and actually probably has a more consistent role. Because Hardman actually played a bunch of snaps last week. He played 90% of the team snaps and was the immediate fill-in for Tyreek, and still was not targeted on offense.
Beyond Tyrell Williams at $4,400, if you go below that, Devontae Parker's in a pretty good spot here, unless he's the one guy that New England decides that they're going to take out of this game. It's fine. We didn't really jump on the narrative of Bill Belichick takes away your best option. That's what he did to Juju basically in week 1. And
does Miami have a best option?
That's the whole thing. Who do you take away? It's no one. Joke's on New England in week 2. No one to take away. So Parker's.
I just think it doesn't matter.
So Parker's a good value, I think, at $4,100, especially if Albert Wilson continues to be all gimped up with his calf injury. But the one I'm kind of circling here is very sneaky. This is a Tim Andercutt special because he plays him every single week anyway. But Keenan Allen annihilated the Chargers in the slot last week. And that's where Adam Humphries is going to be. I know he didn't do anything in week 1, but they didn't have to do anything in week 1. Mariota can't throw the ball more than 5 yards down the field anyway. That's primo Adam Humphries territory. Now, a lot of that went to Delanie Walker last week. Potentially this week, that could be a time for Adam Humphries, and he's super cheap.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be playing any of him. I don't think I'll be playing any Adam Humphries. I mean, maybe it's a smash for you. I think if I was just like dumpster diving, I'd rather go like James Washington, Zay Jones, Demarcus Robinson, one of these super cheap Arizona guys like Demir Bird or Keyshawn Johnson.
I mean, I prefer just not to get 0 from my spot, I guess is what I'm saying.
Bird and Johnson both ran like 60 routes last week. Keyshawn Johnson had 10 targets and he is 3,100. You like love this. You love crappy wide receiver on a crappy team that's going to be trailing all game. Who is that Houston Texans wide receiver that you love when we used to go in like
the Bruce of Ellington? He was great.
Yeah, imagine like playing that dude at 3,800, but saying you don't want to play Keyshawn Johnson at 3,100.
Well, everyone's just going to gravitate towards Terry McLaurin at $3,800 and another good game script. Get behind the Dallas defense. Like, I'm probably not going to use him this week because I think everyone's going to use him, but I understand the spot. Like, and he's $1,000 cheaper than the rest of the guys that all broke out last week, like the John Rosses and the Hardman now in a better spot, the Browns and all those guys.
Yeah, I probably just won't play anyone that is going to be like flocks to like that because my evaluations on like how teams are going to play is not going to change that much in 1 week or whatever.
So how much do you think you'd have to own of Tyrell Williams to be overweight to the field?
Chalk never really gets out of control at wide receiver, right? It's like much more likely to get out of control at running back. So maybe like you think 60% could double the field?
You say 60% could double the field?
Yeah. So you think he gets to 30%?
I don't think that he gets to 30%. No.
Yeah. So I'm just saying like you'd be, even at 50%, you'd probably be locked in to double the field. He is going to be really chalk. But Josh Jacobs will be 2X's owned.
Like, would you want to own Josh Jacobs and Tyrell Williams on the same team though?
Probably only in cash. Or only like I would maybe create a rule in the optimizer where they could only be together if Derek Carr or Patrick Mahomes was in with them.
Like if we look around him, so if we know that he's going to, this is one of the best practices to do. If we look at Tyrell Williams at $4,400 and look at where the pivot plays are going to be off that super chalk and guys that can explode from that situation. I mentioned Humphries. That's probably more of a, if you're building 100 lineups, throw him into a few. But if you want like big play upside, no one is going to use Geronimo Allison, especially because he's right next to the guy everyone's going to use.
They really should not use Geronimo Allison.
But look one spot below. You already mentioned him. DraftKings Metcalf. It's already in his name. Do we just use him?
Yeah, MVS, Willie Snead, Christian Kirk, DJ Shark, Randall Cobb, DK Metcalf, all these guys. I think I would consider like viable leverage pivots off of Tyrell Williams.
Is that the spot where you think you should go for leverage, though? These lower priced, high ownership plays? Or are you just now overthinking yourself? Because if it was running back, that would be one thing. He is guaranteed volume at receiver. Wide receiver's wonky, man.
Well, and it really, so it would depend on how many lineups you were making, right? And what you were looking to get out of your tournament lineups. If you are looking to have a good chance to cash in a lot of your teams and not just totally bottom out.
Davis, if I was looking for a good chance to cash in a tournament, I would just play cash games.
Yeah. So then, I think what you were saying right now is pretty good advice. We have a good projection on Tyrell Williams, like in our initial run, but we don't have him meaningfully different than, some of the guys like Marvin Jones. We have him kind of close in points. Like they're just guys around that range who have similar ranges of outcomes, even if their volume projection is not exactly the same. Amendola
might be the best receiver, at least most used receiver besides like Hawkinson. Because I was not impressed with, they didn't even throw to Marvin Jones basically, but it seemed like Stafford wanted to throw to Amendola every single time in that game, which is odd.
I think we're going to see a lot of players have their season best game against Arizona. And I would be weary of buying at that high.
He's only $3,900.
Yeah, even not high in terms of price, just high in terms of like even including him in your player pool. Like probably not a guy I would include.
All right, quarterbacks. Let's do this. Derek Carr is the best value on the board, I think. I don't like that. He's 5,100.
Yeah, but quarterbacks. It's just like, you save a little bit. I just like, dude, I'm gonna have so much Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's gonna be like by far and away my top owned quarterback.
If you played 3 lineups, would you play Lamar on all of them?
No, I play him in 2. I play 2 Lamar and 1 Dak probably.
All right, let's go to the very top. Mahomes is only $7,500. So what I'm thinking about doing here is just doing, if I'm only going to play 3, so in the Pat Mayo experience open here for week 2, that I'll just do double game stack, one running 1 Carr lineup, one running 1 Mahomes lineup. Like, with his price being so high, but only $500 more than Lamar Jackson. I agree, Lamar Jackson should be probably projected for the highest owned. But if you're going to tell me that Lamar Jackson's going to be 22% owned and Mahomes is going to be 5% owned, I'll take Mahomes.
I mean, that's very likely what you're going to get. Quarterbacks like never get to 20%.
Lamar is going to be super popular this week.
Yeah, he will easily be the most owned quarterback. Mahomes will be single digits for sure. Mahomes will be less owned than Derek Carr. He will be, he will not be chalked this week. You're totally right.
So I will play Mahomes. I'll probably end up playing Lamar Jackson just because I'm a sucker and I know that he's going to have a good game, so I should probably take him. I like Derek Carr as the value guy, and of course, man, my main man Josh Allen, $5,300. The guy turned the ball over 4 times and still scored 20 DraftKings points.
Yeah, I mean, he averages over 54 rushing yards per start in his 13 NFL starts. So it's like basically he starts a game with an extra passing touchdown, basically, like relative to dudes who don't run at all.
Yeah, and if you're just at quarterback, you're looking to spike one of those like top 3 ceiling weeks. That's how you can get yourself ahead, like the Lamar week from last week. And Josh Allen is one of those guys who can do that because of his rushing ability and his willingness to call his own number at the goal line.
And you know who you're stacking him with. Like, you're not stacking him with Cole Beasley. You're stacking him with one of Zay Jones or John Brown.
No, you're stacking with John Brown. Zay Jones is awful.
Yeah, I mean, Zay Jones is really horrible, but like he's a dude who literally comes in at like 0.03%.
Yeah, that doesn't matter though. Like the stack is Josh Allen, John Brown. That's your stack. Yeah.
And I guess if the quarterback isn't chalky, then it doesn't really matter.
Well, I mean, people don't like Josh. Like the real life perception of Josh Allen that he sucks actually influences his fantasy value, and since he like basically came back from injury last season, he's a top 3 quarterback in fantasy.
Yeah, he was top 1 quarterback in fantasy weeks 12 through 17 last year.
Yeah, everyone just kind of wants to overlook. They're like, oh, I'll get sneaky. I'll play Mitch Trubisky, who is in a similar vein, but not as wild. And the wildness with Josh Allen actually helps his fantasy upside.
No, Trubisky is white. Yeah, he's way worse because he just stopped running at a certain point. Trubisky just stopped running at like week 8 last year.
So are we overlooking some of these bigger names? Like, I know we talked about Josh Gordon. We've talked about Sony Michel. Like, do you just play Brady and hope he just decides to set the touchdown record? Because he probably could in this game.
I see. So he's 6,400. I would rather play Deshaun Watson for 6,600.
I don't want to play Deshaun against Jacksonville. I just don't. I think Jacksonville's D is a lot better than they looked last week. You lose Miles Jack, that's not helping. You do have, Marcel Darius was injured as well, but you're also playing the Chiefs. Like, the Chiefs are going to make you look bad. And the Texans offense isn't the Chiefs offense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't sweat those individual defensive matchups that much. I think a good offense beats a good defense 95% of the time.
That's fair. But if we then start looking at, like, do you project Watson to be the highest scoring quarterback on the slate this week?
No, we have Watson and stuff is still not adjusted yet. He is the 4th highest projected quarterback of the week.
So if that's the case, he's the 3rd most expensive. That sounds like a don't play him.
Yeah, but I think his 90th percentile is much better than some of the guys that he's projected next to because he adds rushing.
Yeah, so if we go with those guys, then it's Jackson, it's Watson, Prescott. If we're just talking about like adding rushing into it, Kyler Murray. Yeah. What did you make of Kyler Murray's rushing ability in week 1?
I think Cliff is a donk and didn't use it. Like barely did any, like, I don't remember once having them do a designed play where he was rolling out to his right. And if you're not going to be doing, like, it's like Cliff honestly did not watch Kyler at Oklahoma when he was designing that week 1 game plan. He basically was just like a straight up pocket passer on like 50% of the snaps, which like Kyler is accurate. He's got a very strong arm. He can do it, but I mean, something that all coaches with shorter quarterbacks know. Drew Brees does this. Russell Wilson does this. You want to get them on the move. You want to get them in a moving pocket. And Kyler is so fast. You want to give him the option to scramble. And he did not have that option against Detroit just because Cliff wasn't giving it to him, which I just thought was so bizarre.
So I'll make my decision at the top between Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. And at the bottom, I'm playing Josh Allen and Derek Carr in those two spots. And I'll probably be game stacking Derek Carr with the Chiefs and with the Raiders, vice versa, as it pertains to Patrick Mahomes. I'll probably just play Josh Allen and John Brown by themselves. But the one I did want to ask you about, if we love Juju here, Ben plays really well at home at 1 p.m., coming off a spot where no one's going to use him. And like you talk about like a slate breaking quarterback, Ben is that guy 3 times a year.
Yeah. And I mean, so the issue with stacking Ben now is I think so much of his passing volume is going to go to one guy that I just don't know. I don't know if he still has 383 yards and 4 touchdowns in him. Like well, he probably does, but I think the occurrence of those games may be trimmed down a little bit.
Well, I don't necessarily want to play Dante Moncrief, but he did play 90% of the snaps in week 1 against the Patriots.
And got 10 targets too.
Yeah. So like if you did want to run out Juju, Ben, and Moncrief, I don't think that's a disastrous play.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is either. Or Vance McDonald, people left him for dead, and people are gonna think James Conner is left for dead too after that game.
Yeah, and I do think that if people were to stack with Ben Roethlisberger, of course they'd use Juju, but I think they would actually go to James Washington because he had that one big catch down the middle, but he barely sniffed the field more than half the time.
Yeah, he was the 4th wide receiver. So, Moncrief played way more.
Yeah, so it would be for me. I probably wouldn't use Vance because I think there are just other tight end plays that are better this week, even without correlation to that. Because I think I can find it with Moncrief better.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, so let's go to tight ends then. Let's talk about these guys. Kelsey, $7,300. Kittle, $6,800. Then there's the big drop off. Then you got Evan Ingram, Jared Cook, Hunter Henry, Vance McDonald at $3,900. Now we're into Mark Andrews and Eric Ebron. What do we do here? Just play.
And
Evan Ingram?
I would really like to keep my tight end pool to like 6 guys this week.
I'm probably going to keep it to like 3 guys. Like Waller is the best value on the board by far.
I really like Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram saw a bunch of that team's targets and he looked really good. Even in a game where they were getting destroyed, he seemed like, their most influential offensive player.
And it actually works out well for him in this situation too, because Sterling Shepard is iffy at least to play with this concussion. He has to pass protocol, and it's not like the Bills are going to. So this could actually work against him in some ways. That do you say, you know what, Tre'Davious White, we don't need you on Cody Latimer. That's probably not going to be it. You just go cover Evan Ingram. That could be the move here, because normally you think he'd be on Shepard, but like all the routes that Crowder ran last week, you would get more upside versions of those targets from Evan Ingram if Shepard was on the field. But if Shepard doesn't play, he'll be a target monster, but I don't know how much upside he has.
I mean, just at the tight end position, targets are at such a premium. Like once you get it, okay, Kelsey, Kittle, Henry, Ingram, Waller. And then after that, I mean, you could tell me no other tight end in this main slate saw more than 3 targets. And I would say, yeah, that's totally possible. Like, it's just crazy how that position works now.
So we talked about Jacobs and Tyrell Williams in cash. Would you pass on Tyrell Williams, just go Jacobs and Waller in cash?
I think Kittle is like clearly the cash tight end. Kittle or Kelsey.
Really? You'd pay up that much for a tight end in cash?
A lot of the times I try and get Kelsey Kittle in cash. Yeah. Especially this week with Josh Jacobs, Giovanni Bernard, Tyrell Williams, Josh Gordon. Like there are just a lot of guys we think are about, like pretty much any week where there's a cheap injury fill-in running back, there's going to be a higher and increased chance of me playing an expensive tight end in cash.
Who will more people try to own? Waller at 33 or Hawkinson at 3,000?
Waller. Because Waller was the island game and everything, so that all plays into it.
But Hawkinson's also a rookie and had a better game, and he was a first-round pick, and people will just retroactively remember the Chargers being bad against tight ends as well. I think that them being there keeps ownership off of each other just a little bit.
Yeah, that is true. I just feel like Waller's getting like way more pub in like the season-long realms too.
Is there anyone below Hawkinson, like in the 2K level, that you would go to, like just the absolute dart throw?
I really don't like playing these dudes. I guess Nick Vannett, because it seems like Will Dissly re-injured his knee. So Nick Vannett's going to be like a 95% of the snaps guy.
Yeah, he played over 50% of the snaps anyway, even when Disley was like on the field. So yeah, he'll play like 90% of the snaps. He's $2,600. I don't know. I don't even know if I like that though.
I mean, yeah, it's just you're never like those guys are more likely to get 0 than get 10.
Yeah, and even if he scores a touchdown, what is it, like 2 catches for 8 yards and a touchdown? That'd be great. But if that's your upside, like what are we really doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and Mark Andrews is at $3,800 as well, and we know that people are going to play him.
He's gonna be the big chalk.
Is the move then just to play Kelsey at 73? Knowing that he had a quote unquote
Kelsey, Kittle, Ingram, Henry are just, I think they're all.
Yeah, well, I mean that's easy to say. They're the top 3 price guys on the board. If you have to take one of these guys,
people do weird stuff at tight end way more than at any. Like people just play weird guys at tight end. Pat, you'd be amazed at some of these lineups I see flipped over against me in cash, and who people play at tight end.
It just seems like a spot where people would pay down. If we're trying to win a tournament here. Would you go Kelsey, Kittle, or Ingram if you played a single entry?
Kittle.
I think I'd use Kelsey. I'd make that work with Kelsey.
I mean, it's fair. It's just that 500. Like, just while we were sitting here, I just built my cash team shell, and it was Kelsey or Kittle, and I needed the 500.
All right, let's move to defenses then. Any sneaky ones off the hop that you see, or are you just playing the Bills at $3,400?
I think the sneaky one, maybe not, just would be the Broncos at home to Trubisky.
I didn't even really consider them. I just thought that defense looked piss poor against Oakland. Maybe it was a bad spot. The one I was thinking about,
Denver's like 90-2 at home in the first 2 weeks of the season, the last 20 years. It's like they never lose this game, that home opener, because of the altitude.
I was looking at the Niners at $2,800. I rolled them out against Jameis last week, and he went full Jameis, so that actually turned out quite well. The other one was going to be the Jags at $2,400. Like we saw, just injecting Laramie Tunsil onto this offensive line doesn't mean Deshaun Watson's not taking sacks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever felt like I ran better than getting those 2 defensive touchdowns to save me in cash games last week. That felt so pure. But I agree. I don't hate the Jacksonville call either.
Yeah, so Jacksonville, the 49ers. I like the Bills a lot. I think the Chiefs are an underrated defense here too. I know I talked about Derek Carr, but if they start boat racing,
the Chiefs finished 7th last year in defensive special team scoring on DraftKings scoring, because other teams just pass 60 times a game against them.
I guess the one thing about it is, I mean, taking Tyreek Hill out of the special teams, I don't know how much it diminishes their overall upside, but it does a little bit, you'd have to think.
I mean, you're playing them to get sacks and chance at a pick six. Like maybe you'd knock it, but I mean Hardman is a good punt returner too, and actually DeAnthony Thomas is like a great punt returner, and he's back on the team.
So Ravens, would you go Ravens or Bears if you were to pay all the way up?
Not the Bears. I don't think I would. I would think I'd rather play the Patriots even than the Bears or the Ravens.
Would you rather play the Bills or Cowboys over any of those top NDs?
No. The D pricing seems weird to me this week. This is not how I would have done the pricing.
Just trying to figure this out then. Maybe it is Jags.
Why are the Bears priced so high? They are on the road against a quarterback that's just going to have strict instructions to hand off.
Because it's the Bears defense. And people still haven't figured out fantasy defense. It's like the one hidden element to DraftKings pricing, season-long fantasy that people just don't seem to understand. That you could be the number 1 defense in the league and be the 25th best fantasy defense. Like being good at defense doesn't always necessarily correlate to being good at fantasy defense. That's why I think the Jags and someone like the 49ers, just because their high sack rates are the way that you want to go.
The Broncos are going to smash. I feel good about this take. Get a defense against Trubisky and get the gambler's fallacy stat in there as well.
Yeah, home underdogs $2,700. I don't hate it by any means.
Well, it's just like at least my brain has a reason to like grasp onto, like, brains just, they want to grasp the patterns, and teams traveling up in that mile high altitude, they're just sucking wind. They're like every team sucks in this game.
All right, so for me, it's going to be, maybe you could almost play the only other one, another home dog right now, although they might be favorites at this point. I know they're not good, but the Bengals at home, 2,600, like their defense was kind of good last week.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Just if you just grinded home defenses and just avoided these road defenses that are overpriced in tournaments, you'd be in a good spot.
Yeah, well, I'm probably going to end up going with 2 road defense. I like the Niners and I like the Jags, like I said.
Tough scene. I mean, if you want to just aren't the Patriots just like the easiest 10 points you'll ever get?
Yeah, but I'm not looking for 10 points. I guess you can't project defenses out that way, but I just don't know how much pressure they're necessarily going to generate here. Although
they're just gonna get the most possible passing attempts against.
Feinberg brought this up on the spread show, that if you go back and look at it, when unless it's a bad separation from Bill Belichick from his old coordinators, he tends to go a bit easy on them.
He didn't go easy on the Lions last year. He just lost to them.
Yeah, like it's a tricky situation.
I don't know if he does that. I think that might be a little bit of a narrative inclusion.
He doesn't want to embarrass them, Davis. That's
How
nice.
do they do? I guess I would say, how do they do against the spread?
I think against the spread, like, they're not great ATS. I could just be making that up though. I'm believing Feinberg on this. He may have created this stat.
Yeah. If I would say if they're like 80% against the spread or something as the dogs, that would get my interest.
No, maybe that's something for someone who has more time than me to look into, or who even cares a bit more. So, man, Niners. What'd you make of the Skins team last week and the Dallas defense?
Keenum can always do this, right? Keenum, yeah. Case Keenum has been a quarterback for his whole life, and he's played it the same way his whole life. He loves to throw the ball deep. He is a total gunslinger, and when he's got fast wide receivers who can beat defensive backs to their spots, he's going to look great sometimes, and other times he's just going to be super turnover prone. And any team that tried to make him a game manager, like, part of the reason he looked so horrible for the Rams, looked so horrible for Denver last year, was those teams tried to make him a game manager, and that's not what he is. That's not what he does.
Do you think the Cowboys smash Washington then?
Of course, yeah.
So if that
was the first bet I made this week, was Dallas -4.5.
So if that's the case, shouldn't Cowboys D be more on our radar? Like, we didn't even bring them up.
Yeah, I guess that's just another thing where, like, I have them in all my seasonal leagues because they had the best starting stretch to the year. But I'm take locked onto the Broncos 2.7K at home.
Well, I'm just trying to reverse engineer it. If you think that Dak is a good play and Zeke is a good play and that Dallas scores points in this game, still no Trent Williams on this offensive line. We know the pass rush is good, and this could be a situation where you get Keenum throwing the ball 40 times. That sounds like fantasy goodness.
Yeah, no, I'm of course I'm on board. I think a Dallas smash is in order.
All right. Any final thoughts about the week 2 main slate?
I really hope we get good injury reporting on Joe Mixon, and or that we get some sort of Gruden update on, we think Josh Jacobs, we really like him in the passing game. Something like that would be appreciated from the Raiders camp.
Well, that is one of the worst John Gruden impressions of all.
It was not even close to good. That was kind of more like my Bill Simmons impression.
There's always there's a go-to. You have to a crush when you're doing these impressions. I do not do a good Gruden, but if you just start the sentence with "here's a guy," and then you're well on your way to whatever the hell you were doing.
Yeah, I need a here's my guy relative to the passing game with Josh Jacobs this week. That would be pretty useful in terms of allocating exposure in tournaments.
All right, so the last note on Joe Mixon before we get out of here, and we're recording this on a Wednesday afternoon. It's an ankle sprain, but it's a low-grade sprain, and I'll have Dr. Jesse Morse on the show on Friday, and he can try to talk us through this. We don't have the actual news that's up, and I'll be live 9:30 a.m. on the DraftKings YouTube channel. You can catch it on demand on the iTunes feed after the fact. Remember to download that, by the way, even if you don't listen. But I would almost prefer that we don't know until inactives come out on Sunday, because then the chalk won't go to Geo like it should, because that just never happens because people aren't paying attention.
I mean, yeah, that would be fine by me because I will have all my builds done like Joe Mixon is out by then, so that will be just a-okay by me. But if I just really don't want to have to make a decision on. Well, I guess if Mixon is active, there is no decision. It just makes the slate a bit tougher.
Mm-hmm. All right. Davis Mattek. Follow him at Davis Mattek. Follow him at Roto Experts and Daily Roto. Tell everyone like what you're doing. How many shows are you on now?
We do the Sports Grid Fantasy Football Podcast every day of the week, Monday through Friday, and we got the Swolecast that comes out, and then we also have, of course, the Takecast, which is once a week.
Yeah, are you guys digging it? There's a Democratic debate coming up soon. Like, are we going over odds here at some point?
We could probably do that.
I mean, we can look at them right now. I know that we're done with football. People don't give a fuck about this. But if I can win some money,
everyone can look out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care for your political takes here, Davis. You can keep that out of it. But if we talk about Democratic candidate, Warren's now the favorite.
Seems utterly shocking because everyone said she couldn't win like 3 months ago.
I mean, I still don't think she's going to win. So Biden at plus 275 is probably the move. Can we get my main man? Can we get my main man Yang to win? I just want to see him debate Donald Trump. That's all I want to see.
I don't know if he'd make it through one debate with Donald Trump.
I don't know. Yeah, Yang seems like a pretty cool customer.
No, I like Yang a lot. He's one of the guys that I am like more interested in, like just like hearing his ideas, and but Annie hates the Patriots, so that's a huge boost for Andrew Yang. But I don't even know, like could Andrew Yang and Donald Trump even discuss with each other? Like it feels like they are on different planes of existence.
Yeah, they just live on two separate planets.
Like they like literally the Venn diagram of things that both of them would think about on the average day, like I don't think would intersect at all.
Like just looking at the overall here, like I think when we talked about this on your show, I said that Trump at plus 190 was value, and now he's still plus 110. I still think that's value.
I mean, Trump at anything to like minus 180, 190-ish would be the bet.
I think it is. Kind of with
he's like very clearly gonna win.
Like especially if Warren ends up being the candidate. I didn't think Trump would win in the first place, so I have no idea about this, but it just seems like
if any woman or person of color wins the Democratic nomination, I think that makes Trump even more of the betting market favorite. You would see a market move in his direction if a woman or person of color won the Democratic nomination.
Maybe, but when you get to like just based on like some of the platforms, I don't think Harris can get out of the Democratic primaries, but I think she'd be a tough matchup for Trump.
Well, it's true. She's a cop. So
yeah, that's what I mean.
Right. Yeah. So actually, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that would actually move it more. But it would be interesting. I regardless of how I personally feel about all of this, I'm very like I think political betting markets are fascinating.
Well, yeah, I'm still trying to figure them out because when we did this through like the 2016 election, it was just based off polling. But polling in today's day and age seems more wonky than it's ever seemed. Like everyone proclaims himself an expert, but people legitimately don't know how people vote anymore.
And that's true. Like the Donald Trump election was something that like pollsters and people who set the markets were like, I remember the night of you could still bet Trump at crazy prices.
Yeah,
like
6 to 1,
7 to 1.
Yeah, it was available on my book at 6 to 1. But like the big one that I always pointed to was during the Democratic primaries was Bernie was like 28 to 1 to win Michigan, and the polling had them within the margin of error. Like you can parlay some of these polling numbers into actually seeing, and it's better when it actually comes to actual primary betting. But if you just take emotion out of it, and it seems like emotion is factored into the gambling lines of the actual.
Well, that's just like real lines.
It is, but it seems to be more skewed because I think fewer people are actually betting on this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these are probably lower liquidity markets, don't you think? Like, how much could you get down right now at your book on Donald Trump at plus 150?
You want me to? I'll put in.
Put in like 5K and see if they'll take it.
They'll take 1K. They'll take 5K.
Wow. So that is legitimately wild to me because I kind of assumed this was like the player props market where like, if I try and bet $100 on a Derrick Henry under, it says I can only bet 50.
Yeah, I think it's because so many people bet on football that they're trying to limit their exposure. I just don't think that people tackle like presidential.
Well,
betting
no,
markets.
player props are just like the absolute lowest liquidity market. So I didn't know how the markets compared.
Yeah, and maybe the closer we act, because very few people are just jumping in to bet on this right now. That I think probably the closer that you actually get into it, that's when they start capping bets. I don't know how all this works.
Yeah, see, I would be interested to talk to a lines maker who does politics stuff and not just sports stuff. I would be very curious as to what they had to say.
All right, Davis Mattek, check him out at Davis Mattek on the Twitter machine and download the Takecast. We do a swap where he downloads my show and doesn't listen. I download his show and not listen unless I'm on it or he's on mine. That's usually
no. I listen to your show. I don't listen to all of them, but I listen to 50 to 70% of them.
I'm gonna say I'm a good 50-50 with you. You talk about soccer way too much for me to care.
I mean, hey, I anyone who skips the soccer episodes, as long as you download, I don't care if you don't listen. Those are more done for my personal indulgence.
Well, listen, I have you set to auto download, so we're all good to go. But anyway, if you want to become a subscriber at dailyroto.com, they've made Davis a winning player somehow against all odds. You can get 10
crazy.
I know. You can get 10% off. Use the promo code THEPME at checkout. And that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Download my show, enter the draw for 20 DK bucks. 2 ways. 1, smash the like button for the episode. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section. Tell me your favorite value at any position on the DraftKings Week 2 main slate. Other than that, subscribe to the show for the audio version. 5-star review, DraftKings handle, something nice about the show. You too will be in a draw for 20 DK dollars. Winners announced every Monday on the Pat Mayo Experience waiver wire show. That'll do it for me. Someone go win $1 million, all right? I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!